Tragedy has hit the Florida State football program.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, you can get your future bets in with the NFL getting ready to kick off, college football just finishing up. There's all kinds of different things that you can go with. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's show, we're going to talk about Florida State, their offensive line. It's been quite interesting how it has developed in a hurry, how that can help project a totally different win total than we originally thought. We're also going to talk about the opportunity for Florida State's depth chart. It's evolved a little bit, but there is an injury that needs to be addressed and discussed. We're also going to talk about Micahi Danzy, his incredible start to this season, and how, even though he doesn't get the ball a ton, Micahi Danzy impacts literally every play when he is in the football game, and it's only going to increase as we go forward. We'll get into that. But unfortunately, the thing that I need to start today's show with is not one that I ever want to discuss. And this is the hardest lead-in I've ever done on any show, any article, or anything else. And I hope I never have to do it again. Florida State football player Ethan Pritchard was shot over the weekend, as I'm sure many of you know. And to be blunt, I've avoided saying anything because I had very few details. And I've had the chance to be around him numerous times. I covered him when he was at Seminole High School in Central Florida, just north of Orlando. Known him since he was 14, 15 years old, freshman in high school. Coaching staff at Seminole told me this is going to be one of the guys. This is why he's a dog. They were right. And all the way through his high school career, he was really good. He always wanted to go to Florida State. He committed early. He was steadfast with it. When I talked to him last year, right before the season, same guy he'd always been. He hadn't let all the information that goes out about him and his program and all. He's just same guy. He's the kind of person you want to be around. So to hear that he was shot in Havana, Florida was critical but stable. Again, I don't have a lot of details. It kind of chokes me up in the perspective of like, what is going on here? I wish I knew more. I wish I could share more, but I will project this. Mike Norvell had his press conference Monday and he went off with it. And not that I would be any different, just watching Mike as he got ready to discuss just Florida State football. You knew what he was going to talk about first with Pritchard. It just looked like Mike was having an out-of-body experience. Like he didn't know how to approach it either. And very few people in public life have to speak on difficult things more than coaches, not just football, but across many spectrums. But there is no way to prepare Mike Norvell or anyone else for something like this. It's not possible. You wouldn't be human. And again, I've been around him. I know him a little bit. I call him a friend, but covering him several times, been at practices at Seminole games, seen him at media events, all this. He's always been that guy, this nice guy, just chill. And my condolences to anybody that has to suffer through this. And may he have obviously a speedy recovery, but to not know, be in limbo, if you're a family member, a friend, somebody on the team, all that it's bad enough for me. I can only remotely, and that's kind, have any idea what it's like for them. I've never had a family member shot. I've never had like a boyfriend or a brother or anything like that. You know what I mean? I don't. So hopefully we get more details soon. And again, hopefully Ethan Pritchard has the opportunity to come out of this quicker than most project. But right now there just really aren't that many details. And for the record, I'm recording this very early Tuesday morning, and I literally waited. I was going to do something. There just aren't any details. There just really aren't, and for obvious reasons. But I wanted to project as much as I could. That's why I didn't have the show up early Tuesday morning as I got back from my trip. But we'll be back, by the way, on a normal schedule Wednesday through the week. It'll be early morning broadcast. But again, really sorry to hear about this, and I just don't have a whole lot more. Now, I do have to move on and go back to some normal, if you will, broadcasting here. But again, my condolences for anybody suffering in this situation. So, good news, Florida State football receiver from being a running back, Micahi Danzy. Did we really know what we were going to see with him when he moved over from running back? It was announced pretty early that he was going to move over. They had a chance to work with him in the offseason, but you just never know. He's a track kid, 400 meters, one of the fastest human beings on the planet. Like top, I think he was number 9 at one point in the last year or something like that, like on the planet. He is shot out of a cannon. I had a chance to meet with him, see him play at a practice at Florida High. He's from Tallahassee, and just super guy, very unassuming, but they played him at running back in high school. He was not a receiver. So it's a long route to get to where you need to go because of routes. Learning how to run routes the proper way is a very long process. I didn't think he'd play much at all this year other than special teams and mop-up duty. Boy, was I wrong. They found a way, and credit to Gus Malzahn and everybody that's involved with getting the play sheet ready for a game. Not only did he make an impact, he punched one home for a touchdown to give Florida State that momentum. Like that play might have been the most important. You could argue that. That's an interesting thing that I think about it right now. Maybe the reverse for the score is the biggest play in the game against Alabama. That place was electric anyway, but for that, I mean, holy cow. You know, those noise readers, like the decibels. I wonder what Doak Campbell Stadium was when Micahi crossed the end line. It was pretty darn loud. That I do know. But he is such a threat that now this is the interesting part. Micahi's not going to get the ball a ton. He's a receiver. No receiver does. Jerry Rice didn't get the ball a ton for 49ers back in the day, and he's the all-time leading receiver in the NFL. It's when he's on the field. How does the other team approach Florida State now? His speed is obvious. Everybody knows the track times and all the craziness. He's sub 45, I believe, now in the 400, which just flat fell flying. So my question is this: how in the world do you really pay attention to him the way you need to? Jet motion, screens, it's probably going to be basic stuff. Other teams know that. And again, as he learns the route tree, it grows and grows. So do the problems grow and grow for opposing defenses. But how do they do it right now? Because if you think Gus is just going to stick with the basic plays that we've seen against Bama, you do not know Gus Malzahn very well. When I covered him at UCF, every week they had a different screen or different formation. They basically ran the same play, but from the personnel perspective, you may see it out there, but the way they lined up, this isn't going to happen. They found ways that, even though you knew the guy who they wanted to get the ball to, they found a way to nickel and dime you to death with some basic screens and reverses to guys that teams just couldn't consistently contain it. But while they had some really fast guys at UCF, I doubt any of them were Micahi's speed. So this is the question I have for Florida State fans. How are they going to do it? How are they going to do that for the next few games? They got some weaker opponents. You got Miami coming up in early October. Are they going to show much? Are they going to save it for Miami? What are they going to develop? When are they going to use? There's so many little questions. I'm very fascinated by this because it changes your run game when you cannot repeat, you cannot crash down. He comes across the formation. Tommy Castellanos puts the ball in the belly of the running back. He can run. The running back can get the ball. And if he pulls it and you've crashed down on that defensive end spot and you've got Danzy out there in the flat all by his lonesome, a simple flick behind the line, if he's got 5-10 yards before he sees anybody, good luck. It is very difficult to handle that play. It's just simple math. Defensive end can't be in two spots. Tackle blocks down, goes up to the second level after getting contact with the defensive end or defensive tackle, depending on the formation for the defense. And you've got a gap there. That defensive end, is he going to help? Come down and just say, to heck with it? Safeties and linebackers are going to have to figure this out. That's rough. That's rough because Danzy's going to have some space there. There's a lot of different little things that Florida State can do, and I'm excited for. So we'll talk a little bit more about formations. I'm going to talk about the depth chart. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow with over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the industry. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. For me, in anything that I do, if I want to order something, I really don't want to wait long. That's something, especially today's world, we're used to really quick turnarounds, and you can get next day parts with Supply House. So make sure you check them out. Join the free Trade Master program today and see serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people and real service. Today's show is also brought to you by the Game Cap. Remember back in the day when you had all these different hats and different cool logos and stuff on them? If you could go back in time and sit in front of your school's biggest rivalry game that weekend, would you want that hat on again? I remember some of the hats I had. I thought they were pretty cool. I think you can do that again right now, because with the game, that's there for you. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles people wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? You can still get them for the same price too. $16.99. It's not these $30 hats that you see at the mall. $16.99. So grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. So once again, Micahi Danzy, this is a player that Florida State can start building their offensive weaponry with. But he's just one of them on the depth chart. And you've got to look at it from a different perspective every week, finding different ways to get him in the offense and other guys too. Just want to throw this out there. BJ Gibson, when Wayne McCoy comes back, etc. They've got a lot of twitchy young guys they can put at receiver. And you also have running backs. I'm curious to see how they use Chroma. Maybe they put him in the slot. Obviously, Jalen Lucas, there's no doubt. We all knew in some way they were going to get him the ball, and the deep shot that they hit with him was a great example. So they got all these different pieces on the depth chart. They can start literally moving, I mean, pre-snap motions, jet motions, etc., that other teams have to take on. That is going to be fun, and they're just going to incrementally add to the playbook. I guarantee it with Gus's offense. I've covered it. I've seen it. So as you come back in here each day to Locked On Seminoles, do not be surprised if I have little bits and pieces, different stories about this stuff. So make sure you walk in with Locked On Seminoles for more of that. But we also do have to touch on something with the depth chart that I do not like, and that's that Rodell Williams is not on this week's depth chart. When it first came out, we're like, what's the deal? He was nicked up. I don't know the extent of the injury. Of course, Florida State doesn't want to announce it, but he's out until otherwise known. I mean, they were beyond vague. I'm not sure if they really know the time period. I don't even know which body parts it is. Is it elbow? Is it ankle, etc.? I have no idea. But Rodell Williams, while he only had 6 carries for 14 yards against Bama, he had the 4th down and short pickup. He was helpful in blocking, and he was a part of the hard-charging interior running game. You just need as many guys as you can in a Gus offense anyway, but he's a veteran. He's a leader. So any time out for Rodell is unfortunate. Hope he has a speedy recovery, and I hope he's able to play against Miami. Again, there's just zero information, and that's by design, I'm sure, from Norvell and the staff. But losing him, that's no good. So more on the plate for Chroma, more on the plate for Sawchuk, and everybody else that coached the football for Florida State. I'm curious, does Cam Davis, Sam Singleton, any of them get more carries? Keziah Holmes, I don't know. But that is your main running back in terms of what we thought for this season. Maybe Sawchuk ends up being that guy. The other thing I'm curious about with the depth chart and the injury bug with Florida State, do they use Lucas a little more? He had 1 carry on the inside. They tried to pop him loose on one. Maybe he gets 2 or 3 carries, maybe some read option, maybe some speed option, maybe some misdirection. I could see him even being in Wildcat at some point. It would not shock me. Florida State has really dynamic athletes in the backfield. I'm curious to see what Gus comes up with at that position. Now, back to the receivers for a second. With Danzy developing, here's my other question. And again, Jalen Lucas plays into this because he's about as ubiquitous as it gets for the depth chart. He can wind up in slot, running back, or out wide. How does Florida State utilize the young receiver group in the next couple of weeks? They got a couple teams they're going to hammer. Are they going to go out and really experiment with them? Or, and I don't have an opinion on this really, but I'm curious, will they just leave players basically in the same places they had them last week and just try to fine tune? Here's what I mean. It's one thing to know how to run routes. You talk to offensive linemen, tight ends, receivers, whatever. Once you get comfortable at a specific spot on the O-line, for example, or if you're normally lined up in the slot as a receiver, whatever it is, the comfort level usually helps guys with their technique. When guys are put out of their normal place, generally it doesn't go as well. It's the same route or it's the same technique as an offensive line, whatever. There's something about comfort that makes players execute better. So will they really change up very much over the next week or two? Especially, you could look at it from two perspectives, minimum. We've got to do it at some point. The more we move them around, the more difficult it is to prepare for us. True. But are they going to be able to absorb it all and not make any errors? There's always risk involved. And this is one of the reasons college football is the greatest sport on earth. It's one thing when you're a pro player and you don't have school and everything else going on, you just practice the same junk all day. Even when the coaches aren't with you, guys go out and run routes. They do all kinds of stuff. You can work that stuff out individually. College, you can do that a little bit, but again, the school and all the different things going on with a young person's life, it's not the same. So how much will Florida State put on the plate of guys like Wayne McCoy when he gets back, B.J. Gibson, obviously Danzy, Jalen Lucas? Are they going to move them around? And do they move Deuce around? What about Squirrel? Those are two veterans. Are they going to move them around more? I think the depth chart is one thing, and that's fine. You got to have a baseline. But with the raw talent that Florida State has, I think it's plausible. I really do, to say, you know what? Let's try a couple other things here to surprise, especially like third short. Maybe you put Squirrel on the same side as Deuce Robinson. And then you also run Danzy across the formation. Just, I can't, and then just run the ball. There's a million ways, even when they don't get the ball. I'm telling you, Gus's offense is going to play games with these defenses. It's very difficult because your responsibilities change with all the formational shifts. And then you put in the same guys that you're normally on opposite sides. They're going to do some different things. I don't know what it's going to be, but that game against Miami, that's what this is all building up to, because they shouldn't lose any games before then. Of course, we said that a lot last year too. But they got the Virginia game. They've got Miami. Those are the next two that are real. Between now and those games, like, they can do all kinds of stuff. Maybe they show some things just to make Virginia, Miami prepare. I'm all for it, and I'm here to watch it, and I'm here to enjoy it. And I'm sure everybody else is too. But pay attention to the formations the next couple of weeks. I know Florida State's going to romp over the teams they're playing. Totally get it. For me, and I imagine for a lot of people, it's how they do it with the formations and the players where they're lined up that I think is going to be fascinating, because they have so many different athletic players on the perimeter. There's really no limit to what they can do. So when we come back, we're going to switch it up, talk about the big guys. Man, Florida State's offensive line not only impressed against Alabama, they did it in a category that Pro Football Focus really found interesting. And I don't think that anybody saw coming. We're going to talk about that next with Pro Football Focus grades for the offensive line. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is going to be kicking off here this coming weekend, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app any which way that you see fit. If you want to get in on the season projections, Super Bowl, if you want to get in on who's going to win a division, if you want to get on totals, win totals, any of that kind of stuff is something you could use the $300 for. Just check out FanDuel.com. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and use FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. College football is definitely back as Florida State beat Alabama, and it couldn't be more exciting. The tailgates, rivalries, and all the energy in the stands, there's nothing quite like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless times waiting, hidden fees, prices, changing at checkout, one of my least favorite things in the world. That's why you should use Gametime. I like the app because it's so convenient and you don't have to worry about all the pricing changes. And the app actually gives you an advantage to the fans because it's the easiest way to get last-minute tickets at the best prices. The other thing, this is cool about the app, again, it's easy to use, but you can see your seat view right there from your tablet or your phone. You don't have to go and guess where you're really going to be. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. All right, the offensive line. This is one of the things that I didn't see coming, nor did I don't think anybody even that I spoke with even brought this up, to be quite frank with you. Florida State football had a really good game, and I do mean really good game, as it relates to the offensive line. They found different ways to keep Alabama off guard with when they threw the ball. I believe it was Tommy, it was 9 of 14, but they also did a really good job of keeping just super talented guys away from your quarterback. Now, he wasn't clean the whole game because it is football, but I mean, like, there's just no way around it. It was insane how much Florida State did a good job to give Tommy a chance to get the ball down the field. For the record, he was 2 for 2 on deep shots, and he had just a really good opportunity to see the field because the pocket was pretty darn good. So for whatever it's worth, here are the Pro Football Focus pass blocking grades. Richie Leonard IV, he was at 83.9. Micah Pettis, 82.9. Randy Pittman, the H-back. Now, I haven't really talked about this, but he just planted a guy after launching him like a potato chip on a run to the outside. Like, he's a pretty darn good blocker for an H-back. Luke Pettibone, 75%. Rodell Williams, 74%. Adrian Medley, 68.6. Marcus Douglas, 68.5. Gunnar Hansen, 57.3. Gunner's the only one that was under 60 out of the tight ends, running backs, and offensive linemen. You could take these with a grain of salt, but, I mean, I watched the game. Tommy was able to step into his throws more often than not. Again, it's not always a clean pocket. It's football. The other team gives scholarships as well. Obviously, Bama has plenty of really good players. But seeing this kind of solidified what I thought I saw during the game, watching the highlights, going back and through, and it's watching things. But without seeing vertical film, and I don't have access to all that coaches cut, but I was curious what they would grade out at. This is a great sign because Florida State football couldn't pass protect worth a lick last year. The jump that it's taken is just monumental. And it gives you a chance in any game because even in 3rd down and 6, 3rd and 12, whatever, you at least have a shot if you've got protection. Last year, it didn't matter if it was 3rd and 2 and they threw it. It was a jailbreak. Now they're really moving up, and I'm curious to see how much the line gels. Herb Hand talked about that during fall camp at one of the pressers, just working more together because that guys that missed so much time in spring, they needed to see it. They needed to see it, they needed to be together, and they got that chance. For them just basically to have fall camp and they go out and perform the way they did is commendable. No doubt about it. So now, kind of like I was discussing with Micahi Danzy and BJ Gibson and all the different young players, they can do whatever they want with that offensive line. They might move guys around a little bit later this year. Somebody gets hurt. They're probably going to have more confidence. And I'm also curious because, there was knock on wood, they didn't have any injuries. If this unit is able to stay healthy for the entire season, where could they be? What could they do? Injuries are always the end all be all, as much as that sucks. But if this unit stays together, man, compared to, no offense to the other teams on the schedule, they're not going to play a team that has more raw talent than Bama. I don't know if it's, I didn't think Bama's scheme was as good as it should. They didn't come after Tommy enough, but hey, you got to take it when you can get it. And Florida State exposed them. I wonder what they can do when they play at Clemson. Like, beginning the season, that might have been the game that I thought was the least likely. It wouldn't shock me if Florida State was in that game to the fourth quarter, maybe even won the Clemson game. You got an offensive line, it gives you a chance. This unit was pretty darn good. So, I mean, it's still got a long way to go. It's first game, etc., but they're probably going to improve. Let's see how they do in games 2 and 3 before they get into the meat of the ACC schedule, and then finish up with the University of Florida down in Gainesville at the end of the season. This could be one of the better lines in the ACC. Just how ironic after last year. It really is wild. So give those guys a lot of credit. They deserved it. And I think it's a lot of fun to discuss, because when you could run the ball like Florida State did to set up those play action passes, man, that's a lot of fun. There's not much better than seeing that. There really isn't. They had Alabama on skates, and they could pretty much call run or pass when they wanted and dictate on their terms. Starts up front. Hats off to the Florida State linemen, the tight ends, everybody, the running backs that blocked. They played together as a team, and that's how you win football games. Florida State was not a very good team in 2024. Start of 2025 was back on the right track, and then some. It was magnificent. So I'm hoping we see a lot more of that, and I'm curious over the next couple of weeks how much more they gel before they play Virginia. So thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please make sure you download and subscribe. Make sure that you hit that notification bell. If you're on Apple, set up the automatic downloads. We will see you again soon here on Locked On Seminoles.